Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. Last year, I released a video about the Navy Federal Flagship Visa, and I discussed a strategy to unlock up to $80,000 even if you have bad credit. And today we're diving into that exact same strategy, but we'll be updating some old information as well. This is a method I've personally used since the very beginning of my credit repair journey, and I'm still using it right now. The problem is people give you bits and pieces of information, but they don't actually break it down in a step-by-step comprehensive guide that's easy to follow, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for you today. We're going to walk through how you can get up to $80,000 from Navy Federal even with bad credit, and we're also going to explain why, regardless of whether your credit is good, bad, or excellent, the time frame for you to get there will almost be the exact same. Like seriously, the gap between where you are and high limit funding is a lot smaller than what you think. Plus, I've got a bonus tip for you at the end so you can unlock up to $105,000 with Navy Federal. And if you're just getting started with your credit journey, don't worry. I've got a ton of videos on this channel about how to remove collections, deal with charge-offs, knock out hard inquiries, and everything else that you need to rebuild your credit profile from scratch. Check out my credit repair playlist. It's down in the description below. So make sure you watch this video all the way through. Take notes, and if you're ready to level up your credit and funding power, let's get right into the video. So if you are currently not a Navy Federal member, you might be wondering, why is everyone always talking about this credit union? Well, it's not just hype. Navy Federal is the largest credit union in the US with over $190.2 billion in assets and more than 14.5 million members as of the recording of this video. And what really sets them apart is their reputation for giving out massive credit limits, even to people with less than perfect credit. But here's what makes the difference. Most traditional banks operate on profit, external shareholders, and stricter lending models. Navy Federal, on the other hand, is a member-owned institution. That means the money they lend out comes directly from the deposits and activity of their members. Because of this structure, they offer better interest rates, more generous lending, and stronger incentives for members who actively use their services. So the more you bank with them, whether it's through a checking, savings, loans, or credit cards, the more you get rewarded. They also use something called an internal score, which tracks your activity and relationship with this credit union. Things like direct deposits, timely payments, and maintaining accounts all raise that score. And the higher your internal score, the better your chances are at getting approved for high limit products, even if your personal credit score isn't the best. I have an entire video that shows you how to build your internal score with Navy Federal. I highly recommend you watch that video. I'm going to link it right here. Now, with Navy Federal, it's not just about transactions, it's about building trust. Traditional banks look at you like a number. Navy Federal treats you like a member of the family. So that's why so many people swear by them. And when it comes to getting funding, especially if you're rebuilding credit, this is a great place to start. Now, I get this question a lot and I've answered it a ton of times, but I know there's new people that are watching my channel for the very first time. So let's talk about it once more. How do you actually become a member of Navy Federal? A lot of people think that you have to be in the military to join, which is technically true, but there are far more ways to qualify than most people realize. Recently, I re-released a video I did on the Navy Federal Pledge Loan, and I touched on this a bit, but let's break it down. I want to make it very clear right now. Yes, a military affiliation is required, but that doesn't mean you personally have to be active duty or a veteran. The military is one of the largest networks in the country, and odds are someone in your family or your close circle has served in some capacity. You just may not have made the connection yet. So here's the most common paths to becoming a member. First, if you have an immediate family member who served in the military or is currently serving in the military, you can join that way. That includes your parents, your grandparents, siblings, spouses, children, stepchildren, and even adopted children and your grandchildren. You can qualify through them, and even if they're no longer active, you can still qualify. Second, if you share a household with someone who's a member of Navy Federal or affiliated with the military, like a roommate who serves or a spouse who already has an account, you may also be eligible as well. In fact, that person can give you something called an access code to help you enroll. Third, if you're connected through employment, that also counts too. You can work as a civilian for the Department of Defense, or if you're a contractor that's part of the DoD support staff, you're eligible. Veterans of any branch are also welcome. And finally, let's talk about a method people sometimes refer to as the backdoor method. Although it's not really a secret, it's just underused. If you have a family member who has served in the military but they passed away, you can still join. So for example, let's say your grandfather served in the Navy years ago. Even if he's no longer alive, you can call Navy Federal, let them know the branch that he served in, and explain your relationship. You don't need to have any military ID or paperwork for that family member, just basic info like the name, the branch, and maybe the era that they served. They often are able to verify this internally and approve you. However, always keep in mind that approval criteria is subject to change in the future, so this may or may not still be valid depending on the time that you're watching this video. But here's the kicker. Once you become a member, you can open the door for others. You'll then be able to refer your own family members or household members to join as well, so the access just keeps expanding. So don't let the idea of military only stop you. There are more pathways to membership than people realize, and it's worth exploring, especially if you're serious about unlocking the kind of high limit funding that Navy Federal is known for. If you're not sure where to start, just ask your family. Odds are someone close to you has served, and that one connection could be your golden ticket into one of the most generous credit unions in the country. So you can call today if you would like to join at 1-888-842-6328. Before we cover the strategy, I just want to recap that everything with Navy Federal does come down to a relationship. This is very important. And because of this structure, members enjoy significantly better interest rates, higher credit limits, and easier access to loans. And that's exactly why so many people prefer Navy Federal, especially when they're rebuilding or trying to access large amounts of funding. And that's my favorite thing about Navy Federal. They have the potential to offer up to $80,000 on a single card. So yes, you heard me right. $80K on one card. And that's very important because in this process of rebuilding your credit, if that is you, you don't need to open 5 or 6 cards in order to have high credit limits. You can focus on one solid product that grows with you over time. Personally, I began with rebuilding my credit journey, and this was where I started with a secured card from Navy Federal. I knew I wasn't going to get a massive limit right away, but I also knew that Navy Federal had the potential to scale as my relationship and internal score improved. So if your credit isn't great today, this is still a powerful option for you. And if I had to choose one card to carry me from poor credit to elite limits, I would always pick Navy Federal credit cards, hands down. So now that we know why Navy Federal is so powerful and why one card can be all that you need, let's get into the actual strategy for unlocking those higher limits step by step. Now you're gonna really wanna pay attention for this part. Everything I'm about to share with you is based on real world experience and insights that I've gathered over time. My goal is to break this down in the simplest way possible so you can understand it clearly and take action comfortably. Once you've joined Navy Federal, you'll wanna open 2 specific accounts. I recommend a flagship checking account and a money market savings account. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, why these 2 accounts? Well, it's because Navy Federal is a relationship-based institution. The more trust you build through consistent banking activity, the stronger your internal score becomes, and that score plays a huge role in whether or not you get approved for high limits. Internal scores are based on your banking habits, how much money you deposit, how long you keep it there, what products you use, and how often you interact with your account. So once you've opened these 2 accounts, here's what you do next. Leave them open for at least 90 days before applying for any credit cards, especially if your credit isn't the best. This 90-day window is your relationship building phase. You're letting Navy Federal see that you're serious about being a long-term member. Now, if your credit is already in good shape, you can really just apply right away after you open these accounts. But even if your credit is good to excellent, I have seen that waiting 90 days while building that relationship can significantly increase your approval odds and the likelihood of being approved with the higher limit in the beginning. For example, someone with good to excellent credit might only get approved for $5,000 if they apply immediately. But if they wait, build the relationship, and show some financial activity with Navy Federal, that limit could jump to $10,000 or even more on their very first card. Now let's get back to the checking and savings account. The reason I recommend the Flagship checking account in particular is because it's Navy Federal's premium checking account option. It offers tiered dividends, especially interest based on your balance. While the percentages aren't the highest in the market, getting something back is better than getting nothing. As of right now, you'll earn 0.35% APY for balances under $10,000 and 0.40% for balances between $10,000 and $24,999 and 0.45% for balances over $25,000. To qualify for dividends, you need to keep a daily balance of at least $1,500 in the account. Not only does that earn you passive interest, but it also shows Navy Federal that you're financially stable, boosting your internal score in the process. And remember, at relationship-based institutions like Navy Federal, your internal score can sometimes be more important than your credit score when it comes to funding decisions. Next, we've got the money market savings account. This is another account that contributes to your internal profile. It pays 0.95% APY on balances over $2,500, and you earn higher amounts depending on your balance. The highest that you can earn is 1.50% for $50,000 or more, and that's of course at the time of recording this video. So to take advantage of the higher rates, you will be required to have an average daily balance of $2,500. So to summarize everything, you should open both a Flagship checking and a money market savings account, keep at least $1,500 in the checking and $2,500 in the savings if you can. I'm not saying this is something that you have to do. I'm saying it's two products that you can open that will likely increase your internal score. However, if you cannot maintain those balances, it is okay to go with the free option. That is okay. Regardless of the account that you choose, the next thing you need to do is set up direct deposit if you can. This is one of the strongest trust signals that you can send to Navy Federal if you want to build a relationship. And if you want to further your relationship, you can also do other products like the pledge loan or a certificate of deposit. I have 2 videos on both of these products. You can check that out. Nonetheless, this strategy will work whether you're starting fresh or you have dipped your toes in Navy Federal before. So whatever you would like to choose, I highly recommend that you do this without overextending any of your finances. After you hit that 90-day mark, that's when you apply for your first credit card. By then, your internal score has had some time to build. You've demonstrated responsible banking behavior, you've maintained a solid account balance, and hopefully you set up direct deposit. All of that combined gives you a much better shot at not just getting approved, but getting much higher starting limits. And again, we're talking about a card that can scale all the way up to $80,000 over time. That's the long-term goal. You're not just applying for a credit card. You're positioning yourself for real scalable funding that grows with your financial health. Now let's talk about the next step in this strategy, applying for a Navy Federal credit card. Now, if you followed the plan, you waited 90 days during which you opened your Flagship checking and money market savings, you made consistent deposits, and ideally you set up direct deposit, then by now your internal score with Navy Federal should be in great shape. Before submitting any credit card application, go to Navy Federal's pre-qualification page. This will be a soft pull, meaning it does not affect your credit score. You'll enter a few personal details and Navy Federal will let you know which card you're likely to be approved for. Now, if you only get pre-approved for the cash reward secured card, do not panic. That's exactly how I started, and it just means that your credit needs a bit more rebuilding before you can actually get an unsecured version of their cards. If you are in the secured card group, meaning that you were not approved for the unsecured version, you will need to make a refundable deposit of at least $200, which serves as collateral. This card will report to the credit bureaus and it will help you build or rebuild your credit over time, which is a great perk. For the other group, if you have good credit to excellent credit, you might see options like the Cash Rewards unsecured version, the More Rewards Amex version, or the Go Rewards card. These are solid unsecured options. All of them have a maximum limit of up to $50,000. Now, our final group is going to be those with excellent credit. If you've established a relationship with Navy Federal and you've done the groundwork for the last 90 days, you may be pre-qualified for the Flagship Rewards Visa. Now, this is the card that we've been aiming for because this is the only card with Navy Federal that goes all the way up to $80,000. But remember, whatever card you qualify for, whether it's the secured cash rewards card or it's the flagship, the key is to get started. Every Navy Federal credit card will still report to the major credit bureaus and will feed into your internal score as well. So even if you're starting small, you're still building towards that $80,000 goal. Now let's get into the most important part of this journey. This is how you'll go from a secured card with Navy Federal all the way up to an $80,000 credit limit using our strategy, patience, and timing. No matter where you're starting, whether you have the secured card, a cash rewards card, a flagship, whether you have bad credit, good credit, or excellent credit, everyone will end up in the same place. Now, if you're starting with the cash reward secured card, here's what you need to know. After about 6 months of responsible usage, Navy Federal will begin evaluating whether you're ready to graduate to an unsecured credit card. Graduation means they'll refund your initial deposit. It doesn't matter if it was $200 or more, they will replace that secured card with a cash rewards unsecured version. On top of that, they'll often start you with a new credit limit of around $2,000. Now, in my personal experience, I didn't graduate right at the 6-month mark. I had charge-offs still showing on my credit report. My credit score wasn't strong enough. However, after 6 months, Navy Federal did reach out with a graduation email, letting me know every month they would evaluate my account and let me know when the graduation was going to occur. It took me exactly 1 year before I graduated. I still had 2 charge-offs at this point, but they still saw the consistent payment history on my secured card, and that was enough. So once again, take note, even with imperfect credit, graduation is still possible. Just be consistent, pay on time, and be patient. Once I graduated, I received a $2,000 unsecured cash rewards card, and then I moved on to the next phase of this process, which was credit limit increases. So for step 1, we're going to discuss the 91-in-3 rule. Now, this is going to be for anyone who was approved for the unsecured version of a Navy Federal credit card. Remember, those who have fair to good credit, who did not get the secured version, this is for you. This strategy will begin at the 91-3 rule, which means that you should wait 91 days or 3 full billing cycles after getting approved for your card before you request your first credit line increase. Now, I really want to make this clear. This only applies to when you have a brand new Navy Federal credit card. When you open a Navy Federal credit card, after 91 days for that brand new card, you can then request a credit limit increase. This short waiting period gives Navy Federal enough time to evaluate your usage, your payment history, and reliability. They're looking for responsible activity using your card regularly and keeping balances low and paying off or down your statement each month. Now, this is where some information changes from the previous video. In the past, you could select the amount that you wanted to actually increase your credit limit by, but the maximum amount that you would get is $8,000. Now, Navy Federal has taken that option away. Even though you're unable to actually put in the amount, there are things that you can put on your application that would signal Navy Federal to increase your limit by the $8,000 amount. I have an entire video on this. I'm going to link it right here, and you can refer back to that video at the end of this video if you're looking to do that at this time. But if you started with the $5,000 limit and let's say you got approved for the full increase amount, you'll then have a $13,000 limit with Navy Federal in just 3 months. Now, in that video that I was talking about, it shows you how to optimize before you ask for a credit limit increase. You want to pay your credit card balances below 10% utilization, but you don't want to bring it down to 0. Lenders like to see activity, but not inactivity. Make sure your credit reports are free of any missed payments or any derogatory marks. Keep making your direct deposit with Navy Federal and continue to boost your internal score. Your goal is to show Navy Federal that you're managing your current limit responsibly before you ask for more. And again, you can refer back to that video if you want to see step-by-step what to put on the application. Now, our next step is the timeline for your increases. Once you get your first limit increase at the 91-day mark, Navy Federal will then have you wait 6 months, so 180 days, before they will allow you to get another credit limit increase. This applies to everyone. Whether you start with a secured card, a cash rewards card, or a flagship Visa, it doesn't matter. So here's what the first 9 months could look like for you. Let's say on month 0, you were approved for a $5,000 card with Navy Federal. Month 3, you can request a $8,000 increase. You now have $13,000 in credit limit with Navy Federal. Now you have to wait 6 months. So month number 9, you can request another $8,000 max, which would get you to a $21,000 credit limit. Now for our people with a lower limit, let's say you had the $2,000 limit after you graduated with your secure card, you can still follow this exact same pattern. You'll just start a little further behind and it'll take a little more time for you to catch up, but you'll get there fairly quickly as well. Now here's the other key part of this strategy. If you want to reach your goal of having $80,000 on a single card, the only card that offers that, as we know, is the Flagship Rewards Visa. All the other cards like the Go Rewards, More Rewards, Amex, Cash Rewards, Platinum, they are capped at $50,000. So what do you do if you're holding the Cash Rewards and you just graduated from a secure card and you want to get up to $80,000? You will need to do a product change. You become eligible to change your card to a Flagship Visa after holding your current card for 1 year. The other condition is that your limit needs to at least be $5,000, which is the minimum requirement for the Flagship. So let's say you start with a secured card that graduated to $2,000, and then after 6 months, you got an $8,000 increase, bringing your limit to $10,000. Once you hit the 1 year mark, you now qualify to change that card to a Flagship Visa. This is your turning point. From here, it's very simple. Every 6 months, you request a max limit increase of $8,000 until you hit the $80,000 limit. Now, remember I said in the beginning, it doesn't matter if you have bad credit, good to fair, or excellent credit. Everyone will reach the exact same goal. Now let's break down the timeline of reaching $80,000 depending on where you started from. Now, if you were like me and started with bad credit with a secured card and that was your path, let's say you graduate in 12 months. You go from a $2,000 limit to a $10,000 limit in the first 9 months post-graduation. You product change to a Flagship after the first year and you receive an $8,000 increase every 6 months. The total time it would take for you to reach $80,000 with this same scenario would be around 5.5 years. Now, for my people that have fair credit to good credit, let's say you start at $5,000. After the first 3 months, you went from $5,000 to $13,000 because, again, you increased by $8,000. You then went from $13,000 to $21,000 after 9 months with another $8,000 increase. After that, you product change because your first year has passed, and then you continue to get a credit limit increase of $8,000 every 6 months. The total time it would take for you to reach the $80,000 mark would be 4.5 years. And finally, those who have excellent credit. Let's say that you started with $25,000. I'm going to give you the absolute best case scenario. So you started with $25,000 and within 3 months, you went to $33,000 for your credit limit. And then after 9 months, you went from $33,000 to $41,000. And you continue to increase by $8,000 every month until you reach $80,000. It would take you around 3.5 years in order for you to reach $80,000, and you'll do it 2 years faster than the person that had bad credit, or 24 months faster. And that's the reason why I'm trying to overemphasize, no matter where you guys start, whether it's with a secured card with bad credit or whether you have great credit with a high initial starting limit, everyone ends up in the same place in roughly a very short amount of time. So it's within a couple of years of each other. And that's the beauty of Navy Federal's system. If you stick with this strategy, you will grow over time and you'll all reach the $80,000 limit mark. The reason why this strategy matters is because this approach does more than just give you a high limit credit card. It has a ripple effect across your entire credit profile. Credit scoring models like FICO take your highest FICO limit into account when evaluating your credit. If you're approved for a $25,000 to, let's say, $50,000 card, it makes it easier to get approved for higher limits with other banks like Chase, American Express, or even Citibank. And if you plan on building business credit, if you have personal high limit credit cards, this helps you get approved with lenders because they will evaluate your personal credit profile, and lenders often mirror your highest personal limit when deciding how much to give you on the business side. So with that said, in the next section, I'm going to show you how this personal credit strategy directly ties into unlocking large business credit lines and how to use your Navy Federal history to get major funding for your business. Now, I have an entire video where I break down step by step how exactly you can get approved for the Navy Federal GoBiz Rewards card. But really quick, I'm going to walk you through the highlights here so you understand why this business credit card is such a powerful tool, especially if you're already building a relationship with Navy Federal. What When I first opened my Navy Federal personal account, I wasted no time. From day one, I also opened a business checking. So immediately, I established both personal and business accounts with Navy Federal. Once I built a solid relationship over the course of a year, I applied for the Go Rewards card and I was approved for a $15,000 starting limit. Since then, I've grown that limit to $25,000. What's great is that the GoBiz reward cards can give you access to an additional $25,000 with no income documentation required. But you need to understand that timing is important. I waited until my Experian credit score was in strong shape and all derogatory marks were removed from my credit report before I applied. Navy Federal is generous, but you still need to meet their internal risk standards. If you're strategic, you can stack both personal and business credit cards from Navy Federal. And on the personal side, we already talked about getting $80,000. Then on the business side, you can potentially get $25,000. That is $105,000 in available credit from one institution. Now, if you want the full breakdown, I highly recommend that you watch my in-depth video that shows you how to get approved for the Go Rewards card. I show you everything from how to open your business account to what they look for to how to position yourself for approval. You'll also learn how to decide between the Visa or MasterCard versions. Personally, I started with the MasterCard, but either version is going to work well. And yes, you can request both versions, but in most cases, they'll just split your credit limit. They're not going to give you double. So no matter which path that you take, this is an incredibly strong play for anyone trying to build and scale their credit profile. And I highly recommend that you take advantage of it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you've used these steps in the last year and you're continuing your Navy Federal journey, please drop a comment below. I would love to hear how this is working for you. If this is your first time hearing about this strategy, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear about your update as time goes on. So please update your comments and let us know exactly where you are in your journey with Navy Federal. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video and you have a wonderful day.